Hello, everybody. Welcome to Visual Journaling, Opening Doors to New Possibilities. I'm Dan, and I manage the Hope series here at UCLA Arts and Healing. And this program is part of our free Hope series, which is healing online for people everywhere, which we created in 2020 at the start of the pandemic to support the resilience of our global community through social and emotional arts. And today's program is in a meeting format, so please keep yourself muted until prompted otherwise. And we suggest that you stay on gallery view throughout the session. And to help with efficiency, you can raise your digital hand when prompted for questions and comments. And if you have the latest version of Zoom installed, the raised hand button is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen under reactions. And you can also find it by clicking on the participants button at the bottom and then clicking raised hand. We would like to begin by acknowledging the Tongva Nation, on whose land the city of Los Angeles, where we are based, rests today. We hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people, who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. And by their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. So let's take a moment in our own way to honor the indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. Let's welcome today's presenter, Nancy Weiss. Nancy is a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist, spiritual director, and soul collage facilitator in Los Angeles. Her private practice blends depth psychology, dream work, and expressive arts. Nancy is a collage artist and poet, having led numerous collage and poetry workshops and trainings, including several for UCLA Arts and Healing. In collaboration with the teaching of a multi-age elementary classroom, she adapted the soul collage process of collage and journaling to develop me cards for kids. This inspired the book, How to Make Me Cards for Kids, Creative Expression for Children and the Grown-ups in Their Lives. And with that, I will hand it over to Nancy Weiss. You're muted, Nancy.
That was just as I was saying, if you can't hear me, give me a sign. So thank you, Dan, and all of you for being here today. Since you've seen the opening slide, or it's actually, you're looking at it right now, let's take a moment to look at it. And we're going to be taking a journey together. Let's begin with a brief meditation. When you deeply listen to your inner voice, you can go into dialogue with your most intuitive knowing. Looking out from this intuitive place, unexpected doors will open that ask us to pay attention to possibilities that lie ahead. Make yourself comfortable. And if you're comfortable doing this, close your eyes. Find an easy breath in and out. Breathing in your openness to whatever wants to come today. Imagine that a door is opening and beckoning to you. This may be an actual door or any sort of an opening. It may be a new way of looking at things, or an old yearning that you are finally ready to actualize. It may come as a dream image. It may be a complete surprise, something that simply shows up unexpectedly. Bring your attention to this opening, however it appears. What stands out to you? Notice how you are feeling and any sensations you are experiencing. Be curious about this door. And for the next moment of silence, open yourself to whatever is wanting to come into fullness. And now, take a deep breath and open your eyes. For the next few minutes, on your blank paper, journal whatever wisdom came to you during the meditation. What is sitting in your mind and your heart? Journal what is emerging in your life and what you are yearning for. What wants to reveal itself to you? As you're journaling, use single words, phrases, images, whatever you wish. We'll take a few minutes. And then I'll call you back for the next step. So please finish whatever you're writing right now. I'm going to invite you to take a leap of faith with me. Start with a deep breath in and out. What I'd like you to do is to take that piece of paper with your journaling and to tear it up. Probably weren't expecting that. You can tear it in any way you want. Big pieces, little pieces, bits, whatever seems to call out to you. And in doing this tearing, open yourself to whatever surprises want to come. I'm watching some of you tear if I can see you in person and not just your screen picture. See how it feels to be taking something you've just written and to actually turn it into something very different. I even notice some people smiling. And so our final step with whatever pieces showed up, I'd like you to take that second piece of paper, the colored paper we asked you to bring, and using whatever pieces either you choose or the pieces that actually choose you, create a collage. Use a few of them, use a lot of those pieces, whatever calls to you. And be aware that you're stepping beyond your images, beyond your journaling, and really stepping in to the possibilities. I've allotted about 10 minutes for your collage. You may be done earlier, and if you are, please look up.
How are folks doing? Are folks winding down, or do we need a few more minutes? Thumbs up? Got lots of thumbs up.
Okay, let's take another minute for you to bring it to a close. You can see if anything else is wanting to come forward. Now, think whatever came forward for you. I'd love to spend some time sharing some reflections about this process. If you wish, share your collage, share whatever it is that stands out for you. And I see one collage being held up. I'm wondering if you would be willing to speak to us. Is your name Mari or
Mari? Yeah.
Ooh.
We have two computers, so there's feedback.
We've got a lot of that.
Okay. I had on the top of the page, I had already previously I'd pasted down a poem by John O'Donohue, and I was journaling on the bottom. And then when you said rip it up, I was shocked. So my first response was shock and then dismay. And then I thought, oh, wow, I've never done this technique before. And then I went with it. And I just scattered things. I kind of mostly ripped pages. And then obviously some of it's typed from the poem that I had pasted in my journal. Yeah, so it actually ended up being liberating. And I like that it's like all over the place. I wasn't trying to make sentences. I just did it more random placement. rather than trying to make a new poem with it. So
Did
thank you. I enjoyed this.
Did you learn something about what might be?
Hold on, it's my volumes. There we go. I learned that I can let go of stuff. It's not so precious.
I imagine that's a wonderful piece of wisdom about even stepping into a new possibility, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That we have to look forward and let go of whatever is behind.
Mm-hmm.
Great wisdom to carry with you. And thank you. You are first.
My pleasure.
I love that. Anyone else like to share what came
And
through?
folks can also raise their digital hand if that's.
Well, that would actually be great, because then we can call in people. And if you have your screen locked, I really invite you to show us your faces now so that you can be part of the conversation.
We have Natalie with her hand raised.
Natalie. And then hello. Michael, we're going to get to you.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I approached it from a more visual perspective. So it ended up being a drawing that I tore up into pieces. And at the beginning, there was a cave at the bottom of an ocean and a lot of space on top. And I was diving in towards the cave. And it's something that is coming for me as a reoccurring dream, that I'm diving really, really deep, and I have to hold my breath really, really long. And what I wrote was that I have to hold my breath and I'm under the surface diving deep in order to emerge. And when I collaged it, there's only a tiny something at the bottom that I'm actually striving towards. And I am part of the cave for some reason, as if the cave was already present and I already had access to it, and I'm striving for something that is almost insignificant, and that emerging is actually the first thing, that I reversed the order of action the way I collaged it. So I'm still trying to figure it out, but I love the idea of dream work, so it really spoke to me when you introduced that idea.
Thanks so much. I think part of the surprise is we don't know what's going to come first. Michael.
Oh, hi. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for doing this. This is really wonderful. This is my collage. I did a combination. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. Let's see. Nope.
If you put it by your face, if you put it right underneath your face, it will show up.
Okay. So it's I did a combination of written word, and drawings, and I didn't have any colored paper when I pulled together my items for this, but I had a colored envelope. So I figured, oh, if we're probably drawing on it or cutting it up, it'll work out just fine. And instead, I put all the pieces coming out of the envelope. And so it's sort of a little bit of a poem, and then sort of somebody balancing the poem, sort of holding up the weight of the words. When you told us to tear it up, I found that I was surprised, and it was very freeing. Like Mari, I found it liberating, and a lesson in not holding on to things. Everything's ephemeral. You know, you work on all these projects, you do all these things, you think it's going to be forever, and it's so liberating to just tear it up, and you know, that's it. And it's also a reminder that it's the act of creating which is so life affirming, giving, and healing. Today, I almost didn't show up because I have an inbox full of emails that need to be answered. I have a lot of projects. I was like, do I have time for this? I figured it's only an hour. I need to I RSVP'd a long time ago. I should support this program, show up. And I'm glad I did, because taking this short amount of time to make art is a reminder that, that we need to do that and take time for that, and how healing it is, and how we help make art. I'm an art administrator. We help make art projects happen all the time. I don't take enough time to make it myself. So that's what's so great about this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love when you say that it's the act of the creating that is so life-affirming, giving and healing, and that the holding on in some ways blocks the creating, doesn't it?
We've got Dunia.
We can't hear you,
I think
Dunia.
Thanks, Nancy. You're
Yes,
muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Okay, this is my collage. Something very interesting happened here, because I wrote directly on my journal. This is my journal. So again, when you asked us to tear it up, it was like, I don't know, I've never, ever tear down anything that I wrote directly on my journal. I feel like my journal is sacred, and everything that goes in it. I have to confess that I took a picture of my writing before I tore it. It was so difficult for me just to let it go. I have to admit that. And I'm not going into any detail, but my writing was about war and internal war. And suddenly, tearing it up, something happened besides liberation and letting go, because it turned out in a tree. It led to a transformation. That war became something that is growing and is full of life and has an opportunity to transform itself into something else. So I think both parts were very important for me, the letting go, but also the transformation. So this is my collage. Thank you.
Wow. Sense of the war transforming.
Yes.
Into something so other. That's a big surprise, isn't it?
Yes.
Especially at a time when a lot of us are concerned about what's going on in our world. Thank you so much, Dunia.
And just a reminder, you can also put your reflections in the chat if you're comfortable.
Wendy.
Hi, Nancy. So good to see you. Hi, everybody. So, can you see mine?
Yeah.
So, I had a piece of paper, and at first I was kind of still in the meditation. So I took a long time to actually start writing, because I was focused on my body and the pain in my body and resting, because I didn't sleep very well. And so I didn't have a lot of journaling. It was mainly rest, body, stillness, movement. And so it was no big deal to rip it up. And then the colored paper I found was this beautiful, I don't know if you can see it, it's this beautiful, from a book, History of American Tonalism. It's different tones, and there's a tree. And so I actually taped these, the whole paper pieces in it. And I don't know if you can see that it's folded. So it's kind of like, what you were talking about, possibilities unfolding from places that might hurt. It's sort of, I love what Virginia said about war and the internal war. This is about pain and internal pain and being able to move within that, from that, with it. And so it's kind of about, space and regeneration and unfolding and folding in, folding out. I don't know. It just seems like it just made itself. I'll hold it up again. I don't know if you can see I just folded the papers and the words sort of are all torn up and just show little bits, and it was fun.
And another kind of transforming, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.
Shifra.
Okay, I was actually sending an emoji to Wendy, but I can sort of.
Oh, I thought you had a hand.
That's okay. It was a hand in a different position. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it's like everybody, I think the idea of trying to, even though I wasn't particularly delighted with whatever I did, the first iteration, there's just something about, I hold on to too many things. So having to tear it up was like jarring and freeing. And then I didn't have much to work with. So this is what I made basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I took some pieces and just added them on here, and then I had colored pencils. So I just decided to, based on what was in my mind about the process, which was about spring and growth and outdoors and sort of being drawn out after 2 years of being in, to kind of whatever words and ideas were with me, and some of them still on the page, I used to color and shape to try to, I don't know, make it more interesting and make it feel more alive than what I was doing before. And but I guess the other thing I just want to say is I was really moved by some of the other people sharing, and just it's in such a short time, such an interesting chance to be in process. So thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful welcome to spring. Mm-hmm. We have any other reflections you would like to share? When? I was enjoying your smile as you were doing the tearing.
Yeah, I don't like to tear stuff, so that was hard, but I got through it. So I didn't have time to glue everything down, but the parts that I did, what I wanted to show is it was freeing to be able to glue stuff down in 3D. I don't know if you can kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because initially when I was going down, I was like, oh man, I have all these like crappy pieces of paper that are just like random. I don't know how I'm gonna make something out of it. And then I realized that it's freeing to be able to create something new and beyond what I would, normally draw or normally scribble. And so that's really just what I want to share is that what I thought was limits that, we're given broken pieces of less than what we started with ended up being, instead of constraints, it ended up being pieces to something greater that I could make. So that was really good.
Instead of constraint, it ended up being something greater.
Yeah, and also while I was doing the collaging process, I recorded an audio memo of me just like thinking out loud and how I was thinking and feeling during it, so I can listen to it again later about just like my thought process and the feelings I was going through while I was doing it.
Thanks a lot. Mary, did you raise your hand? Ooh, look at that. We need you to unmute so you can talk to us.
I was being polite and I forgot to unmute to talk to you. So this is my journal where I took where I normally write in insights as I'm sitting in meditation. So for me, what happened was I took just a random piece of paper because I was just going to kind of listen and wasn't going to try to make great art in the next 5 minutes. But in the meditation, a memory came to me, and it was originally a memory about space and a memory about people reacting in and with me in my space. And then as that, it started off very concrete, then it got into something more about not just the physical space I hold, but how I hold myself in my space. It's hard to explain. But then I didn't have a colored piece of paper because I glued it back in my journal. So in drawing all around it to sort of make the colored paper that you asked for, I realized I took this idea that was kind of about separation and put it back into a different kind of a whole. So it's an integration of a memory and a series of judgments into a different whole. So that's what mine's about.
Which completely transforms the memory, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I kept the pieces so I can still read them.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm like, I liked what I wrote down. So it's like, yeah, you can tell me to tear it up, but I'm going to put it back so I can still read it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But that sense of space taking gets transformed.
And then that I did tear it up. And then when I put it back, it turned itself into a different whole. So I still have my original insights, but now this made me think about a larger context. And that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. Thanks for your sharing.
Thank you, Nancy. This is an interesting exercise, and I have been wanting to get back to journaling in a more visual way. So you're my jumpstart. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And considering that you weren't sure you were going to actually.
Yeah, I was just going to listen and kind of like see what you had to say. And it's like, oh, golly, she got me. I had to do something. So thank you for that.
You got caught, huh?
I got intrigued, drawn in, trapped, but again, in a different context than what I started. So thank you. That was what I was hopeful for.
And that's what this whole process has been hoping for, that something opens beyond itself. And I mean, as a piece of wisdom for all of us, this sense of the letting go allows us to put back into a different kind of whole. So we think we're destroying the whole, but what we're doing is we're transforming it. We probably have time for 1 or 2 more comments. And I see Lauren, so please speak to us.
Hi, thank you. Thinking about my world, and I just returned back from the country that I'm from that I wasn't able to go to for 2 years. And I wishing both my worlds and people were in the same place, but I don't know. It felt like I was stretching. Something was stretching across the worlds, but I wanted to say that over the years, I've never identified as a visual artist, so I doodle and draw, but then rip them up. But then I decided many years ago to keep everything I've ripped up, and I have this whole box of ripped up paper, and I make beautiful art out of the ripped up paper and realize that collage is not a default because I'm not a visual artist, but collage is my art form. And I love the whole metaphor of deconstructing so that we can put it back together, choose pieces that we like to have there and maybe discard pieces that we don't want there. And I call it the Humpty Dumpty method. Although I don't know, they say they could never put him back together again, but I changed the story and say he put himself back together differently. So so I wasn't, I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised that you said to rip it up, because I love ripping stuff up. So thank you so much. Thank you.
And you've been doing this for years
I love it.
of ripping and recreating.
Yeah.
Lovely. Anyone? Okay, let me see. I have to get Tati Sheila.
Hello. This is what I created. I didn't have colored paper, but I had done a mandala yesterday. And so I used that, right? So this is what it kind of looks like. Let's see. And so what I really appreciated was I normally, like, my life has always been sort of filled with anxiety. And so I tend to hang on to things. And I remember even there were times when I had done some art directives and I did what, I forget what her name was, then I took a picture when they asked us to rip it up. I had taken a picture, but this time I think I'm just aware of my growth. And at this time I was like, you know what, it's really interesting, but I'm not feeling any panic or anxiety about ripping it up. And if anything, I felt the opposite. It was like, oh my God, I'm so happy that I'm able to do this without any concern or worry, and that I'm embracing it. And so that felt really good. Just that it just kind of gave me a sense of, you know, the growth that's sort of taken place. So that felt really good. And it's interesting because I wrote a few words, but at the same time, I was kind of propelled to, you know, do a heart and a peace sign, and it's part of who I am. But when I ripped it up, there were images, and it's hard to see because I painted on top of it, but where there were like little faces that appeared, like little, because of the way I ripped it up. So like little nose, little eyes, like, and smiles. And I thought, that's so lovely, right? Because my life has always been so serious and so controlled. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take these little pieces that look like little faces, because it looks like little faces that are popping out, and it's fun and it's playful, and which is what I really, you know, sort of need in my life. And so I also was compelled to add gold to it. I think partly surrounding that, I'm trying to remember I think it's Chinese, where you take a bowl that's been broken apart and you put it back together with gold. And so I can't remember, there's a name. Is it in the chat? Well, somebody put
it's called kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Okay, thank you so much. And so I don't know, I was propelled to add some gold in there because I really feel like now I'm embracing when things are like when there's an openness that's created by these spaces. I'm not feeling afraid of when things get torn apart, or when things don't go the way they're supposed to, or I'm able to embrace that, you know, sort of, and you can see the fluidity too in the image, right? And even when we did the visualization exercise, I saw water and I was spinning and it was open, and which really surprised me, honestly. So yeah, I really appreciated that. It almost gave me a sense of where I'm at. Especially because my heart has been so heavy with everything that's been going on in the universe. And thank you for, I can't remember who shared about the war and the transformation. So that I'm taking with me. It's amazing what we take back, right, from these exercises, not just our transformation and process, but other people. You know, I'm here for a reason, obviously, today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that notion of stepping beyond your own seriousness and saying, there's some way to play here. and an opening. I've been so moved by even, I mean, just anything shared was just filled with wisdom. And so I'm taking away so much more than I could have imagined. I would like to read you just a brief poem as we close. And I know, Dan, you mentioned that we can continue conversation after the workshop officially ends, if any of you want to stay, and you certainly are, you know, that's just by choice. And I hope, Dan, I'm not speaking out of turn. But you might want to close your eyes for this, just because it's beautiful and it will take you deep. It's a poem by the Terra Collective, The Box, Remembering the Gift. Take a breath. What in your life is calling you? When all the noise is silenced, the meetings adjourned, the lists laid aside, and the wild iris blooms by itself in the dark forest, what still pulls on your soul? In the silence between your heartbeats, hides a summons. Do you hear it? Name it if you must, or leave it forever nameless. But why pretend it's not there? I'm going to read that last stanza again. In the silence between your heartbeats, hides a summons. Do you hear it? Name it if you must, or leave it forever nameless. But why pretend it's not there? So I hope part of what you're taking away is that there are surprising ways that this summons calls out to us. And you just experienced one of them today. I might suggest that you put your collage somewhere that you can see it. Maybe even daily for a while. And just notice what wants to emerge as these days go by. Thank you all for your presence, your amazing comments, and simply for being in the process with yourself.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for your participation, and an extra special thanks to Nancy. I wanted to point out that we have some Hope Series programs coming up, including Mindfulness for Wellbeing in Daily Life, and some programs in May and in June that explore social identity and social justice and advocacy through art. So please sign up for those programs as well. And I wanted to encourage you to fill out our quick 2-minute survey that I put in the chat. We'll be sending you that survey in a follow-up email, and we'll also be sending you the quotes and the poems that Nancy has shared with us today. So those of you who have to leave, I know we're done with our hour. So thank you all for joining us, and those who would like to stay, Nancy has agreed to stick around and answer some questions. So thank you so much, everybody.